looking for a cup, but I didn't find one.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our regularly scheduled Beloit City Council meeting. It is now 7:07 on Monday, March 4th, 2013. First item is called to order and the roll call.
Roll call shows all councilors present.
Move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item number 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. There are none, so we'll move on to item 4, which is public hearings. We have item 4A.
A public hearing for a proposed zoning text amendment creating Section 5-800 of the zoning ordinance, Article 10, Chapter 19 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit, to be known as the Wellhead Protection Ordinance. The Plan Commission recommended approval 4-0.
Do we have a staff presentation on this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good evening. I think what I wanted to do prior to the public hearing is maybe just give a little background to get us to where we are right now. What we did back in roughly 2004, the city embarked on a wellhead protection plan with the DNR. This was part of us taking over the water system from Alliant. So one of the first things on the docket, if you will, was to look at a wellhead protection plan. In July of 2001, just for a little background, I assumed the director position, was given the director position in July of 2011, July 11, 2011. On July 20th of 2011, I received a letter from the DNR indicating their desire that we adopt a wellhead protection ordinance within 18 months of July 11, 2011. It goes on to state that the City of Beloit shall adopt an ordinance to include all wells. Now, these are finite statements that I had no reason to question. And knowing the program had been on the books for several years, these statements are a natural extension of the city's desire, and the DNR's desire, to have a wellhead protection ordinance for all of our wells. In fact, the March 13, 2000 email from the DNR's groundwater section chief, Mary Ellen Volbrecht, confirms this. She wrote that the adoption of a wellhead ordinance for all existing wells is a condition. I'm sorry. Now, this is in reference to well 14. Let me preface, this is in reference to our construction of well 14, that the adoption of a wellhead ordinance for all existing wells is a condition of the July 2011 facility plan approval for the City of Beloit, meaning well 14. So in order for them to approve the facility plan to construct that well, a condition of that approval was to adopt a wellhead protection ordinance for all wells. And she goes on to say the department conditioned the approval to match the city's application. We sent an application to the DNR along with our facility plan, which included a wellhead protection plan and a wellhead protection ordinance. So they conditioned the approval of well 14 on the adoption of that plan that we sent to them in 2004. And I think more importantly in that 2011 letter that I received, they stated there was no variance issued at that time. What that reads to me is that nobody asked, nobody questioned whether or not do we need to include all or some. It was taken for granted and for fact that we will include all. And because no variances were asked for, none were going to be granted. So that gives you a little history of how we got to where we are right now, and why we feel it's important that we, personally, I feel we enact this ordinance as it stands in front of you today. Oh, certainly, yeah. Before, when I first presented this to the council, we had a few items contained in conditional use sections, some prohibited. So and after going through the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission brought up some very good points, along with our business partners brought up some very good points. So what we did is we took those suggestions, recommendations, and questions back to the DNR. The DNR, I asked specifically Mark Harder, our water supply engineer, Norm Hahn Jr., another water supply engineer, to get their opinion as to being able to move certain business functions, for instance, dry cleaners, auto repair shops, and those types of businesses going from a conditional use into a permitted use. And they, in effect, have no problem with us doing that. What we need to do is not only we as the city, but also as a business owner, just demonstrate and take reasonable measures to assure compliance with the ordinance. And the biggest thing, and probably the most important thing we would need to do, or others would need to do, is to take simple engineering controls. And those can be simple things like concrete flooring. I mean, we no longer have dirt floors in our auto repair shops. Everybody has concrete floors. Everybody has modern facilities. Proper disposal of waste products. Everybody does that now. Spill control prevention plans. And certain technologies, for instance, with dry cleaners, they now have evaporation technologies and cartridge cleaning, where in the past they would use more liquid type chemicals and they weren't quite as regulated. Now they use cartridge. It's more of a dry process. So those types of concerns have kind of fallen to the wayside. And common sense. It all goes back to common sense too. So we're very comfortable. I'm very comfortable that the changes that we made, moving a lot of some of the conditional uses into the permitted uses, is not only smart for the city of Beloit, but it helps with our business partners and still keeps in the spirit of the wellhead protection plan. So I think it was the right thing to do.
Okay. Anything additional that you'd like to add?
No, I think that about covers it.
Okay,
No.
then I think it's probably time for us to open up the public hearing.
Okay,
I do
thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing on item 4A. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on item 4A, please approach the podium, state your name and address.
Mike Zorl, 1756 Carlisle. I have some reservations on the Wellhead Protection Act. For example, I came to the last City Council meeting and I saw the presentation, as did everybody up here, and it discussed some of the pros, but I didn't really see a lot of the cons. So one of my concerns is maybe we don't have an entire full picture, at least not that was presented. It adds some red tape on businesses. For example, it is going to be the business owner's job and at his expense for monitoring and compliance. It's coming right out of his pocket. And because of that, you have to look at the situation for anybody that does business in those areas now, or anybody that may anytime in the future, do business in those areas. They have to ask themselves, what's this property worth to me? Before today, it's worth a certain value, and after today, if you pass it, it's going to be some value less, simply because the cost of doing business on that property has gone up.
Sir, where is this property?
Ma'am?
Where is it?
Ma'am, please.
And additionally, because you're adding compliance costs and you're adding red tape, the net effect is it's going to be anti-jobs. It's not going to be night and day, but the question is, will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? I don't know. Ultimately, though, I do think it has some good intentions. Everybody wants clean water to drink. And to that point, I would say, why are we thinking about passing this when we're intentionally adding pollution to our water right now? And that pollution, contaminant, is fluoride. Fluoride is not water treatment, it's actually people treatment. Fluoride is not about children's teeth, rather is it about industry ridding itself of crude hazardous waste products, silicofluorides for profit.
No.
Silicofluorides.
Let me call you up for a second. We're talking about the Wellhead Protection Ordinance, not about fluoride, and I understand your passion for that. but we need to kind of keep our public hearing relating to the specific tenets of the ordinance, please.
It's absolutely related because it places restrictions on property owners that live there, and they're being forced to use the city water system as opposed to use their own water. So if you're going to force them to drink the city water, we have to take a look at what's in that city water. So I think it is relevant from that case. So I'd like to continue, please.
No, I don't. I think that you need to relate to the specific tenets of the ordinance.
Well, on that, I have to disagree with you, so I'm going to sit down. But I'm upset with your view on that.
Does anyone else wish to come and speak on item 4A? Third and final call.
Again, where is this property?
What property are you speaking about, ma'am?
In 4A.
There's no property you're talking about. You're talking about this is an ordinance to protect to protect the wellhead watersheds. Please approach the podium and say your name and address.
Hi, I'm Tom Pullman, and I am part owner of the property at 2785 Park Avenue. I understand the need for this ordinance, and it's being generated by the DNR, and I'm fully supportive of that. Harry's been very, very accommodating for all of us and informational. I didn't understand the whole process at first and what was driving it, and I feel now it's something we have to do, and I understand that. From a business owner standpoint, I have concerns with some of the language I feel is a little vague. And one of the things that does happen if you pass this ordinance, as worded even with the changes, is that within 45 days, business owners are going to be required to file a spill plan with the city. And I don't know what that entails. It's not described here. We haven't been made aware of that. So it could be something where we, at our cost, have to hire a consultant to come in and look at changing the way our landscaping is, berms maybe around parking lots, things like that. It's not spelled out, so it seems a little vague to me, and that causes problems as far as costs that might be put on business owners, or will be put on business owners, as stated in the ordinance. And I'm glad that we've changed some of the conditional use permits to permitted. I feel that was a good thing for business in Beloit. I do agree to some extent with the other gentleman as far as the additional restrictions can be burdensome and expensive to property owners and discourage the use that future businesses may have of these properties. So I have a lot of concerns that way as the owner of a property there. And my property is used partially as rental, so it may limit the types of businesses that want to move into that property. And the other issue I had was later in the ordinance, I don't have a copy of the full copy with me now, but there were some portions there that pertain to rebuilding your property in the event of damage or a fire. And if, well, I believe it was in excess of 50% of the building was damaged, you have to rebuild it to a higher standard, a standard that uses the newest and most modern building techniques to prevent any spill damage. And I actually plan to make some improvements on my building and the possibility that this could happen at my building. But to have to rebuild to a standard that's not specifically described could make it excessively expensive and may not make it worth rebuilding my building. And if only 60% is damaged, now I may be stuck with 40%, and the insurance that I have doesn't allow me to rebuild my building to the highest possible standards for safety and control of spills or pollutants. So I find that, and then there's also a section, the next section refers to if machinery is damaged, it also has to be replaced or rebuilt to the newest, most modern, highest standards of safety. And I feel that that can be burdensome. It could discourage people from staying in an area. We could lose jobs because of it. It's something that I think affects a lot of the Hendricks properties, and especially I'm surprised they're not a little more involved in this, because I think it could deter some bigger businesses that they brought in, like Kata Transmissions, places like that, if there were fires or losses. And I guess that's my biggest concern, is there's some vagaries there. The spirit of the ordinance I'm fine with, and I certainly hope we come to an agreement with something, but I hope that I've found that Harry has spoken with the DNR and found there is some flexibility in the ordinance, so perhaps we could put some flexibility in those areas and be a little bit more specific about what sort of a spill plan, what it involves, you know, how involved it is. If it's very involved and we have to hire consultants, then it is a burden on business. And if a new business was to move into that building that was now conditional use, they would have to bear that expense, and that could be the reason someone goes to Janesville or Roscoe or Rockton instead of Beloit. So those are my concerns, and they're mostly expense oriented, and I hope you'll take those into consideration and perhaps consider some more modifications to the ordinance. Thank you very much.
Do I have anyone else wishing to speak on item 4A? Please approach the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Roger Kemen. I'm the owner of Ryco Incorporated on 2549 Park Avenue. First of all, I'd like to thank all the counselors for their service to the community. It's a thankless job, and it's tough, and we have great public service representatives in our city, and it's proud to be a member of our community. I just want to make a comment about procedure and substance in the overview of the process. The comments before me, I agree 100% with it, but a little maybe constructive criticism is what I'd like to point out. Beloit is on the cusp of doing wonderful things because of the hard work of many organizations and people through the city. We've been fortunate to be here for 42 years. In fact, we were originally in this floodplain when this was redone, and we were moved to Park Avenue at that time. And so we've already been through a little bit of redevelopment. We've expanded our facility 5 times since we've been in Beloit. Each of those times, I will say that the city has been an advocate for us with anything we've had to do with the state. When we're located right where Wellhead 14 is. Tom and I had to do a little work to give you the right to sell some property back to you so that you could drive to the facility and use it. We kind of did that at the last minute. But having said that, I think from an overall view, when you're trying to attract business and maintain business and grow business in Beloit, one of the questions we asked at the planning session was there any inventory done of not only the citizens but the businesses that were going to be affected? And did they know how many businesses were going to be affected? Did they know what kind of businesses were going to be affected? And the sum of that answer was no. And I believe that question was even asked of this council looking at the minutes several meetings ago. And consequently, it's an unfunded mandate. So consequently, the city is very careful about where those costs go. They go to the business owner. But you look at an ordinance and you didn't know whether it was going to be 10 businesses, 20 businesses, 50 businesses. You didn't know whether my business was going to have a big impact or not. And I just think that's maybe not the best message to send, especially to the smaller business community here in Beloit. We understand, us as small businesses, that there's no big incentive to come and say, gee, this is 5 jobs, let's work. There's a limit as to what government can do. But I think it sends up a little red flag to some of the people that want to expand or look at expanding or already own property. And as Tom mentioned, no complaint, but by this ordinance, my property's worth less. We had some of it as rental property. We operate all of it. That's fine if we get a good ordinance that's good for business and good for the community. But I think the process was a little sloppy, maybe up front. If we were looking at something that started in July 2009 as a process, and to see it go to Planning Commission like that after one reading here and a short public notice where you get a letter on February 20th with language that scared the hoobie-joobies out of quite a few people, I don't think that's necessarily a good practice. And that's my only comment about the whole process. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other persons wishing to come forward and speak on item 4A? Second call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4A. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4A. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 4A. And do we have any councilor questions or comments?
Motion first.
Want to do a motion first? Okay, we can do that. We have first thing is we have do we wish to have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Moved by Levy.
Second.
Second by Kincaid. Any conversation on suspending the rules? Okay. Oh.
Sorry, we have new microphones, so we're trying to figure those out down here. I would request of my colleagues that we not suspend the rules. I do think we need more time. Certainly, this became apparent to me over the last week over the flurry of emails and correspondence I received from residents and business owners that are concerned, trying to understand what this means to them. I just met another couple in the audience in the brief time I was able to try to circulate before the meeting who were confused about what this meant to their business. And I think we need to take the time to really make sure that we have a good, solid ordinance that does certainly protect our water quality, but also helps our business owners understand what's at stake, what potentially the cost will be to them. So I would ask that we not suspend the rules and use the time extension that the DNR has offered to us. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on suspending the rules? Hearing none? Yep. You. Okay. All right then.
I would agree with Councilor DeForest. I have a number of questions on the specifics of the ordinance, and depending on how those get answered, might be ready to vote for it tonight, but I think there's a decent possibility that I would not be, so I would prefer that we take the time to make sure we get this right. It's been a long process. The DNR is not breathing down our neck to do this tonight, and I think we should make sure we do it right.
Thank you.
Okay. And Dave?
I think Tom and Roger said it well when they expressed the concerns for more communication, better communication, and again, I would go along with that. A little more time is not going to hurt anybody.
Kevin?
And I guess I would ask a question of the city manager or even to Harry. There was a gentleman that spoke on the spill plan, not really understanding what that is. Is there a template that if we move forward with this that business owners could receive to show them what's all involved in putting this together? I don't know how many of them have that expertise, and I'm not saying that they don't know how to do it, but if they need assistance, is that a possibility that we have something that we can get to them so they'll know how to develop a good plan?
Yeah, absolutely. We are environmental program. Okay, our environmental program, we currently, within our business permitting program, we already have a canned spill control prevention plan in place. It's about a 10-page document that you could probably sit down in half an hour and do. It's not a very extensive plan. It basically delineates the chemicals you have on site, any sort of engineering controls, and just it's a Q&A regarding what you have at your business. And again, we provide it to all our local businesses already. Many of them have already done it. If they fall within the criteria of needing the spill control prevention plan, they've already done it. Again, it's probably, I would say, an hour tops that you could sit down behind your desk and go ahead and fill one out. I would not see any reason to have to hire an outside consultant to do this. No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Sheila? Go ahead.
Ready for me? Okay. Sorry, Harry, you just probably sat down and I did ask about the spill plan. I appreciate you sent me the template. It did look
Okay.
very user-friendly, so I'm glad to see that, and I hope we would make sure businesses know what's available to them.
Yeah, certainly. If they want to send me an email, I'll send them an e-copy of it.
Thank you for that. I'm more concerned about the environmental assessment. That seems to be the big wild card in this. And when I had asked about if we had an idea of how much that would cost or we could cap the cost, the sense was that we had no notion. That's a little scary to me to communicate to businesses that we really have no idea how much an environmental assessment would be.
Right, understood. And I, standing here tonight, and again, it depends upon the size of the business, how many square feet, the nature of the business. It could be anywhere from, one number I did hear it was less than $5,000. But again, it depends upon the nature of the business. I can't sit here and determine what it may be because there's such a wide variability in what that cost may be depending upon the nature of the business and how in depth they would have to go. So I can't even offer an educated guess as to what that cost might be.
Is it possible, and maybe it's not in the next 2 weeks, to give us a general inventory of how many businesses would be affected that do not currently have an environmental assessment or a spill plan?
I believe that number landed at 200, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to double check with Drew, but we did seem to have a list. But I can certainly check with Cheryl, our environmental coordinator, find out who we currently have within our business permitting who has spill control prevention and who might have to fill one out.
Do you believe that's about 200, even with some of the conditional uses that we took off the list?
I believe with some of the conditional uses, it may be less. Again,
Okay.
I'd have to check and go through the list to see how it matches up.
All right, I would appreciate whatever you could do to give us a better idea of what we're talking about.
Okay, I will be out of town for a week, so you'll have to forgive me that I'll be leaving tonight from here to go out of town. So it'll be a week. On the 13th, I'll be back in the office. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
Mr. Harry, can you briefly outline what is our regulatory structure right now for these sorts of issues, and what is the change that the DNR is foisting upon us? And we're not operating, obviously, in a vacuum right now, and this isn't something totally new. We have all these different things. But what is the benefit, or what is this? Is this a statewide thing that's being implemented? Why? We're certainly not being singled out here as the city of Beloit. As I understand, it's a statewide program, and everybody's having to get on board with protecting their wellheads. But can you outline what we're doing now briefly and how this is an upgrade or a change?
Well, I think the best way to answer that question is we currently have in place, along with our environmental program that speaks strictly to protecting our wastewater treatment facility, our sanitary sewers, and our storm sewers. This goes another step further to protect the groundwater. Early on when we developed our program, the EPA mandated that we obviously protect our infrastructure and investment in our wastewater treatment plant and our sewers. So therefore we developed the business permitting program to monitor whatever chemicals and issues they may have in their businesses. So this is just another step along those lines. Instead of looking at the sewer, we're looking below grade, if you will, for the water. And there are, I believe it's 336 Wisconsin municipalities that have a wellhead protection plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Couple of hopefully quick questions. To the extent that we have an idea of the businesses that are affected by this, are we planning on doing anything in addition to specifically notify them of their requirements within 45 days, or what's our expectation on how they would find that out?
I think the expectation on that is once we come to a final draft, I will take it upon myself to make sure that every business owner that's affected, if we could maybe even set up a meeting to talk about it and find out where we need to go, what we need to do, and what we can do to help them get to where they got to go. And I think that might be the best thing, a public information meeting where we can sit down with everybody, all of our partners and all of the players, if you will, and sit down and go over it. I think that might be the best thing to do.
And is that 45 days a state set number, or did we pick that?
That is a flexible number.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a flexible number. Again, what we developed this wellhead protection plan from a template. If you go to the DNR, there's roughly 3 to I don't know how many templates, and we landed on this particular template, what we consider called the Germantown model. And we've also backed away from the restrictiveness of the Germantown model. I think we found a template that seems reasonable, and again follows the spirit of the wellhead protection plan, but yet is not as restrictive on our business partners. And I think that's obviously the goal that we want to do, is find that happy medium, that sweet spot. And I think we can find that with the ordinance as it's written, of course, with some more questions answered. But I think we're there.
One other question, the uses that we took off the conditional list, do we need to put them on the permitted list? I noticed the language of the permitted list says the only permitted uses are, and it seems like it's not clear what would happen if something's on neither list.
Yeah, absent of it being mentioned specifically, it's assumed that it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Councilor DeForest.
Here, I just want to thank you. I really appreciate your commitment to meet face-to-face with the group of businesses affected. I think that would be really helpful. Because sometimes these notices are scary. They don't understand them. The language can be, obtuse. So thank you for doing that. I think that would be a wonderful step to take.
Okay, sure.
Appreciate it.
I'll keep you all posted.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion? Go ahead and sit down.
Thank you.
Could I ask Harry to address one more?
Go ahead.
One more thing you forgot was addressing the list of businesses and or properties that were impacted. And apparently somebody made a statement at a meeting that we had no idea which properties were involved. And I know at one point in the process, I saw a list, and we had developed a very specific list. We knew virtually every property in every one of the wellhead overlay district areas,
right.
Where particularly all the business and institutional properties. Would you try to clarify a little bit what that statement was referring to?
Well, I actually, quite frankly, Larry, I'm not really sure what the statement was referring to. When we put together this list, and I know, Drew, we came up with, I believe it was it started 3,024 businesses that were listed, and that's how we based the public notice. But as we're going through the list, we realized that the vast majority of those were probably residential. Not probably, they were residential. So we started to boil down the list more and more, and we got down to basically the ones that would be truly affected by this. And then we realized, once we came to council, went to the Plan Commission, we realized that we can also start to incorporate even more of those businesses within the ordinance. So it's been a, if you will, a whittling down process. Again, we learned as we went through the steps along with the DNR as to what our goals are, what our limits are, and where we can be a little more inclusive. Now, I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, Larry, but we have been.
You had a list of properties. We knew every property, which was about 3,000.
Exactly.
The overwhelming majority of those are residential properties,
yes.
which really aren't impacted by any of the regulatory standards
Correct.
that are in the overlay district. Only business, industrial, and institutional properties would be covered by those additional regulations.
Right.
And we've known that since the beginning in terms of what the impact was and whose properties were involved. Right. And that's part of what drove the notice list, is
right.
when people got notices
Correct.
that this was coming up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
So it was a
Okay.
strange comment.
Thank you. And Jim.
I promise this is my last one. If we accept the premise that it's a good thing to protect the groundwater, why do you arbitrarily take a 5-year zone of a cone of water travel versus a 10 or even a 20-year? And if we take a look at all the other communities in the state that are doing this, why don't we jump right in at the highest protective level we can? I mean, right now we all talk expense. Well, I can only imagine the expense 5 or 10 or 20 years from now when we have to start taking out tetraethyl methyl lead, whatever, out of the water supply. An ounce of prevention at the front end of this is going to be a whole lot less expensive and healthy than the cure 20 years from now. So why 5 years versus 10 or even longer?
Typically, the 5-year is sort of the gold standard, if you will, when it comes to a finalized version of an area. Typically through either chemical changes as the chemical passes through the aquifer, it can absorb onto the material that the aquifer is made of. It can just become less, as it travels through the aquifer, it just, I don't want to say decomposes because that'd be the improper term, but it changes its state through the process. Viruses and bacteria have a very short lifespan when it comes to being away from a host organism. So 5 years is the gold standard. I think more importantly, what they do is when they set these up, they will base these on a maximum pumping rate. Now, for the city of Beloit, it's roughly around 19 million gallons. We can pump maximum. So they base that 5-year time of travel. If we're drawing all that water in at 19 million gallons a day, it's going to go through a lot quicker. We only pump about 5.5 million gallons. So we're roughly 30% of our capacity. So, theoretically, we could move out much larger just based on our current pumping rate. So it's just probably good practice that a 5-year being the gold standard, the fact that as water moves through or as chemicals move through, they typically by the time they get to that point, they are below the acceptable limits for that contaminant. Okay. So it's based on geological structure and those things, the structure of the aquifer and the chemical makeup. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think the most important thing though is because they're based on maximum pumping rate.
Well, and if we're only doing a third of what we could be, you've got a 15-year rather than a 5-year.
Exactly. Theoretically, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no additional persons wishing to comment, I'll state, my own personal preference. If it's the will of the council that we lay this over, that's just fine. I don't see a pressing need myself tonight. So, I guess with that, we'll call the question. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Wasn't there already a motion and a second?
Yes, suspend the rules, right. So
right, so we can remove that one from, to lay it over.
Right, so we've since we have none, we've have by default agreed to not suspend the rules. So do we have a motion to lay over?
So moved.
Moved by Lupke, second by Levy. All in favor of laying over, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We've moved to lay this over 7-0.
President Haynes, is that a layover to a date specific, or do you want to wait for more than 2 weeks because Mr. Mathos won't be back in the office?
I think we should probably lay this over till I would prefer to lay this over till the first meeting in April. Does that sound reasonable to my colleagues? Harry, will you be here? Okay, so this will be the first meeting in April. Okay, thank you. All right, item 5 is citizens' participation. We reached the point on the agenda where individuals can come forward to speak to the council about things that are coming before us or may come before us. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes and refrain from personal attacks of any kind. We have a number of sheets here. Now, I have a little bit of unfinished business, so I'm going to ask Mr. Zorl to come forward because he wanted to speak about the issues with the water, and this is the appropriate venue and appropriate time to do so. I probably should have mentioned that I was intending to do that earlier, but I'll call you forward now. And as something for you, sir, I will go ahead and let you talk about the thing you really generally intended to talk about this time as well.
I'll just continue where I left off.
Okay.
Silicon fluorides are 85 times more toxic than naturally occurring calcium fluoride. Fluoride is more toxic than lead, and like lead in minute doses, accumulates in and can be damaging to the brain and mind development of children, producing abnormal behavior in animals, reducing IQ in humans, especially in conjunction with deficiencies of key nutrients such as calcium, iodine, and vitamins. It can also contribute to many disease processes because it is almost as toxic as arsenic. Fluoride's ability to play havoc in the human body should surprise no one. There is as much or more dental decay in fluorinated communities as there is in non-fluoridated areas. However, the dental costs are higher in the fluoridated communities due to dental fluorosis. Drinking fluorinated water may delay decay but does not prevent it. Dental fluorosis is not simply a cosmetic effect. Dental fluorosis is the first visible sign of fluoride poisoning. Today, there is an increased prevalence of dental fluorosis ranging from about 15 to 65% in fluoridated areas and 5 to 40% in non-fluorinated areas in North America. The EPA scientists, after studying all the evidence, concluded that the public water supply should not be used as a vehicle for distributing this toxic, useless substance. The FDA states that fluoride is not a mineral nutrient, it is a prescription drug. Every prescription drug has side effects, including fluoride. Fluoride has never received FDA approval and does not meet the legal requirements of safety and effectiveness necessary for such approval. Once this drug is put in the water, there is no control over the individual dosage. The American Dental Association supplement schedule shows that fluoride prescription drugs should not be given to infants under 6 months of age. 1 cup of water per day for children aged 6 months to 3 years matches the supplement-controlled dose. Therefore, in fluoridated areas, most children under 3 are getting an overdose of this drug via their drinking water, yet the American Dental Association continues to recommend it. The widespread and uncontrolled use of fluoride in our water, dental products, and food and beverages grown and processed in these communities is causing pervasive overexposure to fluoride in the U.S. population. Most developed countries have rejected, stopped, or banned it because there's no margin of safety. Fluoride is not just one of 40 chemicals used to treat water. It is the only chemical added to the public drinking water to treat individuals rather than the water. It is mass medication. That's about 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And did you go ahead? Do you want to speak on item on the next item, Mike? No. I really originally intended for you to go ahead and also you did want to discuss the citizen participation for the 501 Prospect project too.
Yeah, I just on that topic, I just wanted to mention that probably the largest concern moving forward with that might be parking. However, from a parking perspective, it's perfectly legal the way it is right now. If you were to be having church services in that area, if you have 500 cars show up for worship services, I don't see much difference if you have 500 cars show up for something else. It's still the same parking spot. And so I think it makes sense to move forward with that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike. Okay, next I have a Patrick Eggleston. Does Mr. Eggleston wish to come forward and speak? Okay. Please state your name and address.
Patrick Eggleston, 903 Vernon Avenue, Beloit, Wisconsin. I'll be also making a presentation when it comes to the 7B. On here, 501 Prospect is a huge, parking is a problem there. As a member of a different church, part of the reason the other church failed was because of parking. There's tenants from the Scoville Center that have to park on the street because they do not have enough parking. And the other parking areas around the area are pretty much filled to their capacity for their own venues. I have a letter from a church member here. First Baptist Church, our church, sold a historic house, and the new owners moved it so that our church could improve available parking and expand our parking to expand our church as best we could. We have parking needs during the week as well as weekends and evenings. Domenico's has expanded their building, which reduced the size of their parking lot. This reduces the size of parking available in this area. The funeral home southwest of the vacant church places heavy demands on street parking on the days they are handling funerals. First Congressional Church needs parking on Sunday as well as church events during the week. They're wonderful facilities that are often used during the week by the church and other community events. There are many other events in the area which place heavy demands on parking as well. These include plays at the Nice Theater, many events at the Beloit College Chapel, the Beloit Janesville Symphony, classes for society, for learning, unlimited lectures, meetings, and community gatherings. The Beloit College graduation places an unusual demand on parking near the college. We need to be aware that we cannot preserve every historic building. I'm not asking the building be razed by any means. I'm not suggesting that we need to level the building and put in an asphalt parking lot. But I have seen some very attractive parking buildings in a number of cities that look like office buildings. These can be incorporated parts of the previous buildings or use some of the architectural or historic elements in them. An ingenious architect could design an attractive building that could have 1 or 2 floors of parking with 1 or 2 floors of office space above, or whatever usage. The adjacent building could be designed for professional use, offices with ample space for meeting rooms. Let us consider helping the strong and helpful units of our community that make a positive influence on our city for many years. Thank them and help to survive these difficult economic times. And then I'll have more presentation again on 7B when it does come up.
There will be no time for public comment at
Okay.
that time. And you have used your 3 minutes, sir. Thank
All
you.
right.
I have a Joan Wooten. We do. Do we have that handset? Yes, I'll turn it on. Okay, it's on. 3 seconds. Yes, it should be. Is it display? Yeah, there it is.
Thank you so very much. My name is Joan Wooten, spelled Wooton. I represent the property at 514 Prospect Street, which is adjacent to 501, the church building, and just north of it. Our property is owned by the Daughters of the American Revolution. For the past 60 years, we have preserved, repaired, and upgraded our property. We have accepted absolutely no funding from the government. We do everything on our own volunteer basis, and we feel that we have preserved a historic building for the benefit of our community. The former owner, Marie Racy, wanted Beloit to benefit and have the historic information about the house, which is related to the history of Beloit. The mother of Horace White lived in that house, and The first president of the Beloit College lived in the house. It's an interesting history. We have watched the neighborhood change over a period of 60 years. We expect change, and we're happy to see the improvements that have been done in our area. We commend the new owners for their ideas, their concepts, and their enthusiasm and vigor. There are serious problems with the property they bought. The confirmation of the land on which that property stands is on a downhill part of property, so that the road is at least 3 to 5 feet below the sidewalk. The church solved the problem by putting in steps up to the sidewalk from the curb. This is not convenient for handicapped persons. They did put in a handicapped door, and they put in a handicapped elevator, which is excellent. But getting to the church is a problem if you enter via the corner ramps that the city has provided, both at Bushnell and Public Street, which are the east and west, or the north and south sides of the lot. We are very concerned for the new owners and feel sorry for them, because the configuration of the LAM is going to limit a lot of their potential concepts of parking. It's going to be difficult to excavate a hill for parking on the terrace. And if you do that, you're going to have to jump on the hood of your car and jump up to the sidewalk. I don't know how else you'll get there unless you go all the way down to the corner or go to the driveway of my property. My property has become the driveway of the Racy house. Excuse me for saying my property, but I'm part owner. Has become the handicapped access to the 501 property. They have real limitations, and I know they can't help it. The building is totally landlocked on the south side.
Please summarize.
My summary is, I feel that this building is not appropriate for the wonderful plans that these people have for it. I would encourage you to seriously consider this or future ordinance requested, because it's going to impact not only on parking, but on handicapped accessibility, on all kinds of things in our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Dave Winters.
Hi, Dave Winters, 13807 Mary Drive, Rockton, Illinois. I'm actually a member of First Baptist Church, which is adjoining property. I'm speaking not against the project, but I think by going and changing your zoning or changing the map, it's an unneeded step. Your current zoning, the Public Lands and Institution District, does allow for museums, historic, cultural exhibits, allows for recreation buildings. It also allows for band shells and auditoriums under conditional use, and it does allow liquor sales in conjunction with those uses under a conditional use. So I guess I'm having a little hard time understanding why we need to change this to a commercial district, which is going to bring more possibilities to use this land if, unfortunately businesses fail. If you were able to do this as a conditional use permit under the current zoning, the new business owner or new owner on the property would then have to comply with the public lands or initiate a new zoning request. So I think other than just the parking, I think there's definitely a different avenue you can look at here on doing a special use consideration with the current zoning. You're just looking at opening up a property to a lot of different commercial uses that may or may not be acceptable to the area. You're allowing liquor sales that open and carry in consumption there and carry out in that zoning classification, and it's a little concerning that way. Dry cleaners, passenger vehicle sales and rentals. It's just, I think we need to limit what you're opening it up to, and by conditional use permit, I think you can solve that tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Rick Bach.
Hi, my name's Rick Bach. I reside at 12887 Vivian Court, Rockton. And I still address the concern for the parking in the area and how that can impact a lot of functions that go in the area to really overwhelm what is already existing in that issue. We did get a petition and had a lot of signatures. I believe there was like 140 some. So it's just not us concerning this. It is a community around the area as well that is addressing that. That is a big factor there. And John, I do admire you taking on tasks like this. You know, I just want to say sometimes things get very overwhelmed. You get a good buy on a building, and it really doesn't. Sometimes things come up that the cost is very great in that area to rebuild something. And I'm sure he's given a lot of thought in the area there and wants to keep it in Beloit, of course. And my thought was, is there something else that maybe alternative buildings in the area where it would give him the chance for parking and expansion, maybe to grow into things like that? As far as all the plans, I'm not sure if it's clear to all the people in the area really what the building wants to be used for. He's expressed that he's got to get things, and it's got to be used for multiple things because of the fact overhead. We all understand overhead, and that's a great cost, whether it's utility bills, gas bills, and also other things. But so that's my concern here. But thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the next is Stephen Hawkins.
Hi, Stephen Hawkins, 717 Harrison Avenue, and I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church. The Leadership Council of First Baptist Church has not met in an official capacity since the last City Council meeting in order to put forward an official statement concerning the neighboring property of 501 Prospect. However, the two dominant concerns I have heard voiced by the congregation regard, one, the type of businesses that could later come use this property as a result of rezoning and should the Whitnabell's business fail, and then two, how the Whitnabell's business will likely affect our church's parking concerns. That is, what additional costs, for example, parking lot monitoring and insurance liabilities, will our church incur as a result of increased traffic on our property by non-members. The parking petition that was just mentioned is not officially representative of First Baptist Church, but are representative of only those who have signed the petition, though many of these signers are members of First Baptist Church, as well as other stakeholders throughout the community. Beyond these concerns, I think we will have a great relationship with our neighbors as we work to promote the common good of the city. Any additional concerns brought forward tonight by members of First Baptist Church are the individual concerns of those speaking and are not necessarily representative of the concerns of First Baptist Church as a whole. We ask that tonight's vote be tabled until there has been enough time for the Whitnabells to meet again with the Church Council to propose a solution to these concerns. Thank you.
Debbie Fisher.
Good evening. I have a young person that just wants to be down here with me. But my name is Debbie Fisher. I'm the Director of Youth to Youth of Rock County, which is located at 416 College Street, and I'm also property owner at 1338 McKinley. We're here to talk about the proposal for 7C, the tailgating at the Snappers game. And we just found out about this on Saturday when we seen front page article on it. So I may be saying some things that may not be correct, so I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. But one of our concerns is Wisconsin has the highest number of binge drinkers in the whole state, and we're very concerned that a family-oriented Snappers game will be allowing alcohol into the front entrance, I believe, as you go into the ballpark. We're very concerned about what that looks like to our community. We already have a problem statewide. Why feed on that? And then also, the Snappers game is a family-oriented activity for families. if we do allow the tailgating, and from what I understand, it would be in the very front of the park where the skateboarding park is close by, the youth will see it, and then we're also concerned who's going to monitor to make sure that there's not over-intoxication and, excuse me, that underage drinking isn't going on. And then the other concern we have is 3 hours of drinking before the game. You know, if that's what's going to be going on, people are already drinking and then they go into the game. Are we going to increase the number of citations, drunk driving afterwards, things like that? So those are things that, as an organization, we're very concerned about. And we'd just like to express those concerns. We also are very willing to work alongside on this issue. I brought this up to our coalition as of Sunday because I just found out about it. There is a lot of concern about this within the community because they weren't aware of it. They weren't able to express that. So if anything, I'm hoping that you will consider not moving forward on this tonight, giving this some time so citizens can express their concerns and we can learn more about what you're proposing. Thank you.
Okay, I have, I can't make out the name. I think Arlene is the first name. Oh, okay, yes, ma'am. Macer, okay. Please approach the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Arlene J. Macer, Masear. I live at 865 Cranston Road, Beloit, Wisconsin. I am a member of the First Baptist Church in Beloit. And I would like to reiterate and support all the comments against zoning the property at 501 Prospect Avenue as commercial. We are not only concerned about the parking, we are concerned about the possibility of businesses going in there that serve liquor and the atmosphere around that church. And so, like I said, I would like to reiterate everyone that spoke on this opposing this proposal from the city of Beloit to make the property at 501 Prospect Avenue from institutional and community service to neighborhood commercial. I think it leaves the churches around there and the other institutions like Racy House very vulnerable. I thank you very much.
John Whitnable.
Good evening. My name is John Whitnable, Wittnebel. I live at 10320 West County Road K in Beloit, and I'm current owner of the property at 501 Prospect. And I must say I do appreciate the concerns of our neighbors. I've owned the building for 3 months now. I've got a chance to meet quite a few of them, and especially at the Racy House. Don't feel too sorry for me, Joan. I know what I got into. It's a big project, and we're excited that the neighborhood is so engaged with us at such an early stage, and I do appreciate their concerns. Having met most of my neighbors, immediate neighbors anyway, I don't see there's anyone there that I can't work with. I think that any opportunity that we have to reach a consensus on a problem will easily be solved. And on the subject of parking, as you might imagine, this is a big project, and I've got a lot going on. But this morning I did a little walking tour of the neighborhood, and I counted 395 public spots within a 4-block walk of my building. That didn't include some of the college parking, which I just assumed was theirs, but I've later been told that's public as well. The people at Associated Bank have told us we have free use of their lot, just like every other event downtown. When there's overage parking, people park it there. And also Visit Beloit told us that if we had an event that happened to cause a parking issue, that they'd be more than happy to let us use their lot. There's solutions to the parking problem, but I understand people's concerns, and honestly, that's been on a lot of people's lips. But I was talking to a friend of mine from Minneapolis Sunday, and he's real big in the music scene up there, and he made a comment to me. He said, John, there's no vibrant civic plan that does not include a performing arts center. I really believe that we will be giving much more to the city of Beloit in terms of cultural experience, arts, education, and I think most of you are aware the real reason for the project is the Youth Unite, which is the foundation that my wife and daughter founded, and they will have a home there at the facility. So yes, we're going to ask the neighborhood to put up with some of our parking issues, but we are going to give back so much more. And Jody, you all know my wife, she can't be here tonight, but she says if parking's a problem, then that's a good problem for us to have. That means we're successful. If we bring 400 people to this city, I'm going to have dozens of employees. I'm going to have a showcase for Beloit's Renaissance, and if we do our job correctly, we'll have 400 people that want to come back again and again to this city. We've only been here, no, it'll be 10 years in spring. We've really adopted this town. My daughter was Miss Beloit. She's our marketing face for the project. We love Beloit. We see that Beloit is moving in a positive direction. We want to be a part of that. And most importantly, we're the only people who had a plan to save this building. I'm asking for your vote tonight because if we can't change the use of the building, I don't see a business model that will work. And you'll stop me in my tracks. I'll be forced to sell the building to the only people that we had to bid against. And instead of hearing the symphony, our neighbors are going to be listening to bulldozers. And that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Do I have any other individuals wishing to come forward and speak under citizens' participation? Oh, go ahead. Your name and address.
Rick McGrath, 1747 Sherwood, here in Beloit. Actually, I hadn't planned on speaking, but I guess I wanted to express one person's opinion about 501 Prospect, and that is I fully support it. I haven't conducted any sort of survey, but just anecdotally, the folks that I have talked to who live in the neighborhood, who as opposed to driving into town and looking for a place to park, those people who live within walking distance, I really haven't spoken to anybody that is not supportive or encouraging of this project. I'm not sure what sort of alternative use for such a large structure as this might be on the horizon that wouldn't have parking issues. It's not like another congregation might move into this building and everybody's walking to the church. Any other future use for this building is going to have parking issues. It seems to me that as of those possible uses that I could conceive of, this is as positive as I could imagine, and certainly would be a better neighbor to have with whatever challenges it might bring with it, as opposed to a derelict building. Because I've certainly observed and experienced that empty, unused buildings deteriorate very quickly, and I would propose that would be a worse neighbor than anything that is being proposed here this evening. For what it's worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other individuals wishing to come forward and speak under item 5, citizens' participation? Please, Ms. Mork.
Hello, my name is Kim Mork, 1822 Sun Valley Drive, Beloit. Got some handouts for you. Thank you. I also want to speak about fluoride. No serious conversation about safe drinking water is complete without talking about adding fluoride to the drinking water. The source of fluoride is a toxic waste product from the aluminum, coal, phosphate fertilizer, and uranium industries. It's not a pharmaceutical, but it is a drug. The city of Beloit adds fluoride at an optimal level of 1 part per million. But the federal government has recommended lowering fluoride levels in 2011. The range was 0.7 to 1.2 milligrams per liter, and they want it lowered to the low end of 0.7 because there has been an increase in a condition called fluorosis. And fluorosis fluorosis is the spotting and streaking on children's teeth that show that they have been poisoned. This is everybody has a tube of toothpaste at home. Sorry. And it says on it, to minimize swallowing, use a pea-sized amount in children under 6. And the warnings are, keep out of reach of children under 6 years of age. If more than used for brushing, so if more than a pea-sized amount is accidentally swallowed, get medical help or contact a poison control center right away. So it's not meant to be swallowed. It's not meant to go into our systems. This is the City of Beloit's 2011 Consumer Confidence Report, which admits that fluoride is a contaminant and that it is from the discharge from fertilizer and aluminum factories. The handout I gave you, it says 99% of all fluoride added to water goes down the drain and into the environment. So if you're worried about groundwater, you don't want to be putting fluoride down there. I have a professional statement. 2,000 medical, scientific, and environmental health professionals got together and they gave a statement saying it is time for the U.S. and the few remaining fluoridating countries to recognize that fluoridation is outdated, has serious risks that far outweigh any minor benefits, violates sound medical ethics, and denies freedom of choice. Fluoridation must be ended now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a brief addendum to my remarks, please? Just a couple sentences.
Okay, sure.
Again, in regard to Arlene Macer's remarks about the possibility of, on 7B, of changing 501 Prospect Avenue from institutional and community use designation to neighborhood commercial. We are, at least I am, very convinced that perhaps the present owners have the best intentions. And I don't disagree with that. However, if that area, that building is zoned commercial, what if their business doesn't work out? Like many new businesses fail. They've got a lot up against them, in my opinion. And what about the future? Any tavern could go in there, any kind of raunchy joint. And that is my main concern. Thank you very much.
All right, do I have any other individuals wishing to come forward and speak under citizens' participation? Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak under items of citizens' participation. All right, I'll close citizens' participation and we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Do we have any councilors wishing to speak on or remove anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6D. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Moved by Levy, second by Lupke. Oh, Van de Bogart, excuse me. Sorry. Thank you for your correction.
We look alike.
Brothers. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes 7-0. Item 7A.
The second reading of a proposed ordinance amending the City of Beloit Comprehensive Plan for the properties located at 545 and 549 West Grand Avenue, 615, 619, 625, and 629 8th Street, 548 Locust Street, 1203, 1233, 1249, 1253, and 1257 6th Street, 219 and 225 North Street, and 1313, 1317, 1323, 1327, 1333, 1339, 1343, 1349, and 1353 6th Street from neighborhood commercial, two-family, and single-family residential urban use designations to the institutional and community service use designation. The Plan Commission recommended approval 5-0.
Madam Director.
The proposed amendments for the properties on West Grand Avenue, 8th Street, and Locust Street are related to the proposed expansion of Hackett Elementary School. That site will be expanded over to 8th Street. The proposed amendments for the properties on 6th Street and North Street are related to the proposed expansion of the Beloit Memorial High School campus. They're also looking to vacate an unnamed alley, which will be coming before you in the next month. Essentially, they're intending to expand athletic fields and the parking lot. Plan Commission did hold a public hearing on January 9th, 2013, and voted unanimously to adopt a resolution that's included in your packet, which does recommend approval of the requested amendments to the comprehensive plan. You did hold a public hearing at your last meeting, and tonight is the night scheduled for action on this item.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Lubke. Second by Van de Bogart. Councilor DeForest.
I have one question for Ms. Christensen. Did we hear from any residents with concerns for this change at
No,
the
we
Plan
did not.
Commission meeting? Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the item. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Now on to item 7B.
The second reading of a proposed ordinance amending the City of Beloit Comprehensive Plan for the property located at 501 Prospect Street from institutional and community service use designation to the neighborhood commercial use designation. The Plan Commission recommended approval 5-0.
Madam Director.
The proposal that the applicant has brought forward to the city includes a restaurant, a cafe. It includes reusing the sanctuary space for performance-type events. It includes office space. It includes a residential unit, and it includes having space for the not-for-profit. And so it has a variety of uses in it, including the liquor sales. Plan Commission did hold a public hearing and did recommend approval on January 9th. And you did hold a public hearing at your last meeting. I did want to comment on Dave Winter's comment about that you don't need to modify the plan. You don't need to modify the plan if you don't want a restaurant, and you don't want a cafe, and you don't want office space, because none of those uses are allowed in PLI. So you can have liquor sales with a permitted use, but the big bulk of what he's proposing is not permitted. I mean, the restaurant's not permitted, so you can't have the liquor with the restaurant. You know, so I mean, it's not as simple as Mr. Winters made it sound. The ordinance does not allow those uses. It does allow museums. It does allow a lot of those public type events. But this would be considered not public. It would be considered a private event. It's a private performance. You know, it's not like the school is holding an event. Then that's allowed in PLI. So, and we did meet with John and Jody early on, and what we proposed to them, which was doing the plan amendment and then following up with a rezoning to CBD1, was the zoning and the plan change that would allow all of their uses. They would still need a conditional use for the not-for-profit use. They would still need a conditional use if they wanted to do out, because at one point they talked about doing outdoor seating area. Essentially, the downtown, what the request is for to change the downtown future land use plan to neighborhood commercial. And then the comp plan says once it's, that the downtown uses should have a zoning classification of CBD1 and CBD2. So that's kind of how the plan is all laid out. And so to do what they want to do, we can't leave the plan alone and we can't leave the zoning as it is. What is on your agenda for approval is just step one, and a couple of steps they have to go through to establish these uses. So I don't know if you have any more questions for me. I was trying to pick up on what the public said.
All right, thank you. I'm sure that my fellow colleagues are going to have questions. So we'll start off with Councilor Lubke.
What is step one? My first question.
This is step one, doing the plan amendment. And then step two would be to rezone to CBD1.
We're just doing step one tonight, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then they would have to be rezoned, and then they would need a conditional use permit.
Let me comment that I spent most of the afternoon on the phone with individuals, friends in Beloit, who talked on this. I also went to the auction that day when the property was auctioned off, and I thought back to my many years in Beloit and driving, the only time I really avoided that corner was when Sunday was in session and there were two churches going because it was quite crowded. And now we just have the one church there. But I can imagine in the 60s and 70s when church attendance was a lot higher, that was a pretty busy corner, and the college lots were used and stuff. So I guess I'm not going to belabor the point, but I think parking is not the issue. I'm not concerned about the parking. I don't think that's a problem. I looked this afternoon at the map, and nowhere on that map was the parking lot at the church, the Baptist church encroached upon, or the house, the DAR house. Both are private lots and should be maintained for that. If the church and the Racy house want to allow them, that's their business. But they could easily put a barricade up or a chain or whatever, because that is their private lot that they've paid for and they maintain. If they want to share it, again, that's their business. But on the map that I saw, there was parking all around the area, on Prospect, on Public, on Bushnell, etc. People for years have walked for weddings, for other things that were held. So that's not an issue to me. The issue is, the one I'm really concerned about is the full use of that building. And I think it'll come up later when we talk about the actual zoning, because that would be step 2. But step 1, I think what Mr. Winters said and others, if we can, and the pastor, if we can sit down with the group from the church and the DAR house with the Wittenbells, and if they can have some discussions, I think we can both win on this. I would hate to see Beloit not get the cultural enrichment that this could bring. This could be tremendous for Beloit, and we could all win on this. But I would like to see some more discussions and talk, and I know that both sides have done some talking, but if we could allay these fears by discussion, by having some meetings. So that's where I'm coming from now. I've got more, but I think that's my major concern.
And Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Ms. Christensen, when I had sent an email asking for more clarification about who was noticed about this comprehensive plan change, and asked specifically about the Scoville residents who are literally across the street, I was informed that we're not legally required to notify them. And I was disappointed by that. I think they have to weigh in on this. They are neighbors. And so I would like to request from my colleagues that we, in fact, lay this over. I want time to go over and talk to Scoville as well.
They received a notice on Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. Okay. Well, I think we need a little more time. So I mean, this is a big decision. It's impacting a lot of people, and I really want to do my due diligence. So I'm requesting from my colleagues that we take the time to really make sure everyone gets to weigh in on this comprehensive plan change. And I just want to make sure for clarification for the public's sake, because this is important in my mind, we could make the change in the comprehensive plan and we could zone it a certain way, but a liquor license is a completely different issue. We could rezone it where it could have capacity for an owner to have a liquor license, but it doesn't mean that we have to guarantee that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Looking at the map of the area, am I correct in understanding that all of the property, both south and southwest of this site, is currently zoned CBD1?
Yes. Well, the property to the south, the property to the west is actually R4.
Right, and then south of that is CBD1.
Yeah, the R4 goes all the way down to Pleasant, where the church is. Where River of Life Methodist Church is. So there's an R4 district, but then the rest is Central Business District.
So in terms of the concern about future uses that could come into this building, that would be the same as any future uses that could come into those properties?
Yes.
And can you give us a sense of what the extent of those future uses could be?
I actually brought my use table, which I don't usually do. But, it's not passenger vehicle sales and rental. I'll tell you that, because I looked at that after he said it, because I was curious myself. I've got to find the... I mean, essentially, office is permitted. Parking lots are conditional. Those are bed and breakfasts are permitted, hotel, motel, liquor sales, entertainment-oriented retail, banks, personal service-oriented businesses, dry cleaning. Actually, I take that back. Passenger vehicle sales and rental is permitted. I must have looked on the wrong column. And then sales-oriented retail sales. And then none of your industrial uses are allowed. And residential isn't allowed unless it's above the first floor.
So once if we do this change in the comp plan and then do this rezoning, a future business, as long as they're within those categories, wouldn't require anything other than the standard permitting to be able to operate it.
Yes.
Okay, that's all for now. Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Kincaid.
Would you clarify for me if the zoning remained as it is now? Liquor could be served on an event basis with a permit, is that correct?
It could be served along with a permitted use. So if you had, I don't have the PLI list in front of me, unfortunately. That's in a separate section.
A wedding.
But if you had, it's a permitted use, not a permitted event. Mm-hmm. So it's, we haven't looked at whether a wedding would be allowable, but the use of it as a museum, as a type of public use.
So if Biff had a showing and they wanted to serve liquor at the reception or something, they could seek a permit for that.
I don't agree that it would be a Biff event would be allowed in the PLI district. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't consider that on that list the list is public type uses, institutional type uses. So if you were the college, say, and you were in there, or if you were, not that the school would serve alcohol, but if you were the college and you owned the building and you had an event, then it's along with the permitted college use. But a BIF event isn't in a permitted use. So I guess when I do not feel that that's a permitted use, just to have it be used as a theater, which is basically what BIF is, because a theater isn't allowed in PLI.
I see. So they couldn't show movies there?
Because commercial uses aren't allowed in PLI. They have to be public or institutional uses, and a BIF event is not going to be considered a public, in terms of the definition in the zoning ordinance. And for sure, the restaurant along with, the serving of the food is not going to be allowable.
An office would or would not be allowed if it were not-for-profit?
A not-for-profit office would be allowed, but
paying rent.
But if it doesn't matter if it's paying rent. It's the not-for-profit use is considered public in the list, but a commercial office would not. Mm-hmm. So there's like a line in the sand with this district that it has to be a public and institutional type use.
If I may, excuse me, if I may speak to the liquor issue quickly. Regardless of the zoning of the property, if liquor was permitted with one of the uses that was permitted, you'd still need a license. So that would mean that the owner of the property would need to obtain a full liquor license for something like that. And I think people get kind of confused with the special event temporary licenses. Those are very specific and they are not inclusive. Those are very exclusive as to who can obtain them and where they can be held, where events with those licenses can be held.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything further?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Oh. And nudge me.
Well, I guess I will just say that I've had a chance to talk to I think just about everybody involved here, both John, a number of folks from First Baptist and DAR, as well as some other interested people, and I've struggled with trying to figure out if there's some kind of a compromise, a different way forward than the options we seem to have, and haven't really come up with anything at this point. So where my thinking is, I certainly sympathize with the future use concern, but looking at the map, the fact that right across the street we have the same kind of zoning, we can't predict what's going to go in there. I'm not. I guess I think we, to a certain extent, we have to hope for the best on that, and I think there's certain uses that the building just clearly isn't suited for, and vehicle rental or something along those lines is clearly one of those. The bottom line here is that I haven't heard any other proposed use for this building. The current owner seems to be the only person who was interested in taking this building and actually doing anything with it. And I think that certainly it's going to be a tough row to hoe getting this project to be successful, but if it can be, I think it would be great for the community. The parking is a concern that we'll have to figure out how to navigate, and I certainly hope those conversations can continue, if possible, even before we get to the next phase of the process. Finding another building for the Whitnabels to use for their project doesn't answer the question of what happens with this building, and that's the concern here that I think pushes in this direction, because there is no other good use for this building that we've come up with, and so I think that's what's weighing on me. As far as issues of cars parked illegally in private lots, I did have a chance to check with the police chief, and Chief Jacobs, correct me if I'm stating anything wrong here, but I understand that if a car parks in a private lot, as long as that lot is posted as a private lot, that they can call the non-emergency number and the car will be ticketed. So immediate towing would be the responsibility of the lot owner, but they would be ticketed, and hopefully that would clarify things pretty quickly. I hope that there can continue to be dialogue between the neighbors as we go forward in this, but given the options, I think I need to vote to give this a chance, and wish the new owners the very best in making this work, and everyone concerned the best in trying to come together and make this work for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I don't mean to belabor this, but just want to make sure I reiterate my request that we consider laying this over for two reasons. One, so we can connect with Scoville residents so they have a chance to weigh in. There's a lot of people literally that live across the street. And then also to give the chance for the church council to meet and hopefully meet with the Whitnabels and see if some more issues can be ironed out. I would like to see the chance for that, to see as much democracy in this process as possible, please. Thank you.
Are you making a motion?
I would love to make a motion that we lay this over for 2 weeks.
Is there a second to her motion to lay over?
I will second that.
All in favor of laying over, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. How many ayes did we have?
Sounded like three.
Three? Okay, so we had...
You probably
I'll be honest.
Okay, so nay. Nay. Okay, so it was four. The nays were 4-3. So we will not be laying this over. We have an underlying motion. All in favor?
There is no underlying motion.
We did. I believe we did. Didn't we? Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval of 7B.
Okay. Moved by Van de Bogart, second by Kincaid. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
I'd like to abstain. I don't have enough information to make a vote.
Okay, so the vote was 5-1 and with one abstention. Item passes. Item 7C.
A proposed ordinance to amend Section 15.06 Sub 1 Sub B of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit as it relates to alcohol in parks to allow tailgating in advance of Beloit Professional Baseball Association, Inc. games.
Thank you, Council, for allowing me to be here tonight and present to you the amended ordinance. As it reads, it states fermented malt beverages may also be possessed or consumed in designated areas of the parking lots located at Telford Park for 3 hours preceding game time of any scheduled Beloit Professional Baseball Association Incorporated game. Such possession and consumption of fermented malt beverages shall be exempt from the requirement of obtaining a permit as set out in the subsection 2 of this section. I would entertain questions that council may have.
Okay. Go ahead. All right, start with Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsey, at our Parks and Rec Commission meeting, I was at that meeting and we were told that the ordinance that we would be looking at would, first of all, I just wanted to make sure I get to the bottom of the facts of the ordinance. We were told that the tailgating would only occur on Saturday nights, but the ordinance as it reads now does not state that. It says all home games.
That
Could you
is
clarify,
correct.
please?
At the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, it was referenced that the Snappers were only interested in beginning this on a trial basis and only doing this on one night on only home games, and I believe that is still their desire. Although the ordinance was suggested to be drafted to include all home games, so that would give them the opportunity to change that if they saw it was being successful for them, and to pursue all their dates as well. But at this current time, they're looking at just only doing on Saturday home games when fireworks exist, which I believe is about 11 for the 2013 season.
Okay. So my understanding from being in that meeting was at that Parks and Rec meeting where this was voted on, of which I'm not able to be a voting member, but for the other commission members, they voted on this with the understanding this was going to be Saturday nights only. And the ordinance reads all home games. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then also, I guess this is partly commentary, partly question. I had raised considerable concern about the tailgating area that was designated being directly in front of the access to the skate park where our kids are skating. And I requested that there be consideration for moving. It's a big parking lot, and can you help me understand still, because I'm still not understanding why we cannot move that tailgating section from directly where the kids have to pass through to get to the skate park to another corner of the parking lot.
In actuality, if I recall correctly, the item that was being referred to by the Parks and Recreation Commission also addressed that designated area. And it was an unanimous vote to agree that to allow that to take place in the designated areas as appeared in the lease agreement as well, which is the area directly to the far west end of the Telford parking lot, in front of the Edwards Ice Arena entrance area, and between that and the skate park. You are correct. That area is about a 50-yard by 50-yard lot area, which consumes about 60 to 65 car vehicle areas to park, and is actually located approximately 150 feet or 50 yards as well north of the skate park area. Yes.
So were you able to get any further clarification about why Snapper's operations was adamant about using that corner of the parking lot when that seems to be the most vulnerable spot for our kids to have to pass through to get to the skate park?
Well, in actuality, that was negotiations that we had worked out with them as staffing. We recommended that area. They agreed that they thought it was a good area to address it. It serves an area where we already have islands already in the lot, and those islands make it easier for us to close off and barricade that section, allowing that for being the designated area. It was simpler to identify that area as well for other vehicles who come into the lot who are not interested in participating in tailgating activity, and leaves the rest of the lot available for that use.
Well, I guess I would just like to reiterate as a comment my concern that if kids want to use a skate park, especially now if it's going to potentially be available 3 hours before every home game. This is prime skating time. Kids are out there. Summertime, it's the coolest part of the day. The skate park is busy in that early evening time, and I am concerned about kids having to walk through the tailgating section where alcohol is consumed to get to the skate park. I, as a parent, would not want my 14-year-old to have to do that. So I do have serious, serious concerns I'd like to express to my colleagues about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Van de Bogaert.
A couple questions, Mr. Ramsey. First of all, do the snappers have a dollar figure in mind when they're going to say, yes, this is successful as a concept, or no, it's not successful?
I don't know if they do or not. That's never really been articulated to us. I think they were interested in this venture because they find that other teams within their the Midwest League participate in this type of activity, host this type of activity in either their privately owned lots or municipal lots that are adjacent to their facilities as well. About 50% of the other teams do as well. And they saw it as a potential area that if they could host this type of event, then maybe they could also incur some sort of charge, which has been a new item addressed in the leasing contract as well, giving them that permission as well. That would be their option or their prerogative, and they see it as a venture where perhaps they can make a few bucks in providing this activity.
Well, because then, as has been brought up at some point, in a sense, they're competing against themselves because they sell the same sorts of things inside the fence as people would be having outside the fence. So.
That might be true. It seems as tailgating is much more than just consumption and possession of alcohol. Of course, it's all about the camaraderie, the team spirit before the game, meeting with friends and family and socializing, grilling out, hosting, bringing food, picnicking. Those type of events are just as important and just as much a valid point to tailgating as the possession and consumption of alcohol as well.
Do you anticipate any requests along these same lines coming from either Beloit College boosters in any of the parking lots contiguous to their facilities, and or any of the Purple Knight backers from the high school? Same concepts may apply to those groups.
I really want to suspect that from the high school, as I believe that is not allowed within their sporting events or associated with the school. We've had no connection with Beloit College at this point in time to know if that would be any of their interest.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Councilor Spreitzer.
Thank you. I have a couple questions that boil down to just trying to get a better picture of how this is all going to work, so I'll ask them and then you can answer however you want. I'm wondering more about specifically how the area is going to be closed off from the general public. You know, how closed are we talking about when we say barricades? Is it just keeping cars out, or are we putting something around to keep people in and out? What's the nearest bathroom facility? If people are drinking for 3 hours, they're going to need to use one. What kind of supervision are we really talking about when we say that the snappers would be responsible for monitoring things? Is there going to be somebody there making sure that kids aren't coming over? Or just give me a sense of how this is all going to play out.
Of course, all of this are items that would be addressed in item 11C today with the lease agreement. What we're really here to address is just a change of the ordinance, which would allow the lease agreement to go forward, although it does state in that lease agreement as well that tailgating would only be allowed if allowed within the ordinance. So I wanted to designate that piece first. The aspect of, again, why this particular area was chosen because the snappers would have the responsibility to close off this area. We would provide the barricades, the similar type of horse type of barricades we provide now for the farmers market in the downtown area. They'd be responsible for putting those up. And again, we chose this area because there's less space and would require less barricades as well if they put them in the area where the islands are at this current time. There would be only 3 spaces to close off. They wouldn't need to close off the whole entire space, but just put it in the middle of the area. And I think most reasonable folks would understand that that lot is closed off. They would also, as they articulated in the new lease agreement, be required to have a supervisor out there to monitor the tailgating activity as well. And I'm sure if they were interested in collecting fees for that type of an event, that was something that they would readily do. I don't know if that answers all of your questions or not.
Bathroom?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. There already currently is a porta potty in that area as well. If need be, another one could be provided. We don't think we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of folks at this event. I don't think they do as well. We would monitor to see how it grew or may evolve. If they would need more resources, we would be happy to work with them as we do with all the other items in helping them be successful and making certain that porta potties were provided. Of course, we would provide a hot coal retained container for hot coals to be dumped in and those various things too.
And so essentially the only barricading, as I'm understanding, is just as far as cars getting in and out of this area. Other than that, there's no perimeter fencing, vision.
Yeah, there's still a lot of operational details that we need to be worked out with them as well. We'd like to see, what type of site plan how they plan to work this. I don't think they know at this current time yet themselves. This is all new for them to work on, but we have indicated to them that, barricades would be made available to close off this area. I don't know if they're going to allow vehicles into that area or only walking traffic into that area at this point in time. That would be part of our discussions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, sure.
All right. Councilor Lupke.
My main questions were the barricade aspects too, and many have been answered, but I wanted to expand on that a little bit. Primarily from the standpoint, two major concerns I have would be with the perhaps excessive drinking with the time before, and then maybe drinking in the stadium, and then as Councilperson DeForest said, the teenagers skating. I had talked to constituents this afternoon and expressed a concern. It'd be wonderful to have that without the beer, but I know the beer is part of the culture. So I had to ask some more questions, and I asked some prior to the meeting. And I think a number of the questions revolved around the barricades. And I think if we had a way to barricade it so just the people who were tailgating could get in that area, or the only people allowed would be people who were with a car, like a family or whatever. I think it's something that would have to be monitored. You also let me know prior to this meeting that we have other parks where beer is allowed.
Yes, but the beer is allowed if you have a permit, an individual permit to consume and possess alcohol in the park. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This doesn't require each individual who comes to the tailgating event to get that permit. So this in turn allows the snappers to have responsibility for that activity. Thus, this is the reason why we would only define it in a certain designated area.
And as Councilman Mandy Bogart said, they're competing against themselves. The snappers are allowing this, but it may decrease their sales in the stadium. So they may cut this off. They may say this is not a good experiment.
They may. They're obviously looking to experiment in this regards. I think they're looking for it as a marketing tool so they can market it, because they get quite a few calls, as they've indicated throughout the year. If tailgating is currently allowed in the parking lot, they generally tell them it's not allowed. There is no place for coals or anything like that. They believe it may go on a slight basis anyway. We have found some coals periodically in the park, which we dispose of ourselves. So I think really what we're looking to do is take control of what may already be occurring on a smaller scale, and giving them a defined area to control it and monitor the activity themselves and promote it and be responsible. And I think they're willing to take that responsibility at this point in time. I understand the concern about having the access to the skate park area. We talked about that in our Parks and Recreation Commission meeting as well. And it was very clear that, all the Parks and Rec Commission wanted to make sure that access was always available to the skate park, and there would be. There is an open area just to the east of this area in front of the firehouse. There's plenty of room to park. There's over 200 parking spaces in the lot as well. But from the area immediately in front of the firehouse, adjacent to the parking lot, is the furthest away from the north end of the park, where generally you find where people going to the game would prefer to park unless they're out of spaces, which is a good problem for the snappers, of course, and they would be that far south. So I think those spaces would still remain accessible and available for folks to park who wanted to go to the skate park.
I think it's important, Mr. Ramsey, that we let the public know that there's not going to be wholesale drinking and picnicking all over. There's one confined
Correct.
area with barricades, and that needs to be thought out more. Plus, no alcohol, no beer will be sold.
Correct.
People bring in their picnic basket or whatever. Nothing's sold out there, and I think we need to let people know that.
I think what we would do is we would define the ordinance and place some signs up that would indicate that this is the only designated area, which just doesn't help define it for the patrons who use the area, but it helps the policing matter as well, who are our enforcement within the parks.
And in the policing, it might behoove us to have an individual out there from the organization, whatever, monitoring that fenced-in area, whatever, and he or she could determine if kids are getting it or what.
I think the snappers have had some preliminary discussions with our police force in that regards. I haven't been privileged to those or know what's been exactly discussed, but I know that they have spoken to them at some point in time, and I've also looked at trying to see what their costs would be and related if they had private security come in and help in that regards. They hope it doesn't get to that point where that's necessary, and think that they at this current time can just do it with their monitoring with their own staff.
Thank you.
Okay, next will be Councillor Kincaid.
I appreciate the team's desire to give this a try to see if it works out for them. I have a feeling, as Mr. Van de Bogart does, that competing against themselves may not be the best thing. So they'll pull out at any time that it doesn't seem to work for whatever reason. Perhaps the city should also be able to say, you know, fellas, this isn't working either for whatever reason we have. Will that be provided for in the lease?
Yes, there is an option in the lease that allows us, if we see problematic areas that need to be addressed, we can address that with them, and we, within a 5-day written notice, can identify to them that we feel that the issue should cease.
I take the point that was raised about the kids being in proximity to I don't have a bad impression of what tailgates are. Maybe I haven't been in the right places, but nonetheless, we may want to see how that works out and how we feel about its openness to the skaters, and so it seems like there ought to be a reasonable way for us to decide it doesn't work for us.
I would concur with that, and I think we will oversee it and monitor it as well on a periodic basis to see how well it works for them. We would hope that we can implore our police force to let us identify any kind of problems that they become aware of, so we can address them as well. We have a really good rapport with the snappers. We meet with them quite a bit. I know on a personal basis I like going to as many games as I can as well, and I think over time we're easily going to see if it's working for us or not, or what needs to be fine-tuned or improved upon. It's an experiment for them. I think in support of what they're trying to do to bring more clients or spectators to other games. It was a reasonable consideration that we've put into the new lease agreement, which again is later in the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. On to Councillor Levy.
Just a quick one. Did we weigh in? Did the police weigh in? Police department weigh into this? Do they have a feeling one way or another about this? The last thing I think that I would want is an increase on police calls or something. Not saying that's going to happen, but
I know it's been discussed at some department head meetings as well. Unfortunately, I'm not privileged to attend those, but I would hope to think that we wouldn't be here tonight to address this if they weren't already on board and aware of this.
Okay.
Okay, we're now on to the second round. I would hope everyone would be brief with the second round of questions. Councilor DeForest.
Notice he said that right before he called on me. I would like to propose that we lay this item over for two reasons. One is we heard a request during citizens' participation from one of our residents that they would like more time to find out more about this and let residents weigh in on how they feel about it. And secondly, in looking at the lease, and I understand this is later on the agenda, but just want to say in general, this is part of my reason for wanting to lay this item over. I'm not happy. I don't think there's enough specifics in here. You referenced yourself that the snappers aren't sure how they're going to handle this or what the operations of it are going to be, and I'm not comfortable considering this at all when they don't seem to know what they're doing yet. To me, this is too important. Specifically under use of premises in the lease where it addresses tailgating. There's just a couple sentences. There's nothing in there about their responsibility to monitor and supervise the activity that I see there. Unless I'm missing the boat, I don't see it anywhere else in this lease. And we need those kind of things really ironed out, hashed out. I think if we're going to allow this to take place right next to our kids' skate park, we need to have snow fencing. We can't have kids being able to bop in and out of that area. A couple of barricades keeping cars out is not going to do that. So I feel like we need to have some more clear details here about what we're going to do to really make sure that kids don't have access to this area before we vote on this. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Spreitzer.
Councilor DeForest just stated most of what I was about to say, which is that I'd like to hear more details about that before voting on it, and if possible, even hear something from the snappers themselves, whether it's a letter, an email, whatever, indicating how they see this working out. So if it's appropriate, Mr. President, I would move we lay this over.
I'll second.
Okay, that would be certainly appropriate. I think it would be perfectly acceptable. Do we have any questions or comments on the concept of laying this over? Hearing none, all in favor of...
How long, Mr. President? Just the standard 2 weeks?
I would say, I don't know, personally, 2 weeks, would that be acceptable? I think that's all this merits.
Mr. President, I would also say if we're going to lay it over for the 2 weeks, that we get back to staff with specifics that we want answered when we bring it back, so that way when we get ready to vote on it the next time, we're ready to move forward with it. So I think oftentimes we say we want to lay it over, but we don't give the staff the specifics of what we want. So between now and I would say the end of the week or something, if we can get our concerns to the city manager or to Brian, Mr. Ramsey, and we can get the specifics that we are looking for.
I think that's pretty specific.
No, I'm just saying it, just throwing it out. Just throwing it out there.
Agreed. Okay.
Relax. This is all right.
All right. All in favor of laying item 7C over, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The item is laid over until the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're on to item 10A.
The annual...
You just skip 8
Oh,
and 9, right?
did I skip it?
You skip 8 and 9.
Okay, I skipped 8 and 9. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize. All I'm looking at is seeing is soaring past 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Okay. So there are no appointments, so we have nothing for 8. And yeah, exactly. For councilor upcoming activities and upcoming events, we'll go ahead and do that. I'm hoping that everyone can be brief. We'll start with Councilor Van de Bogart.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, and now on to Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I do want to give a shout out to 3 participants at the Empty Bowl event that I attended that I met. Jenny, Susan, and Athena, 3 delightful women that I sat with and got to meet at the event, and would like to thank them. They said they faithfully watch city council meetings and they rarely can hear me. So I'm glad with the new microphones that they can hear me now. And they said I look a lot thinner in person. So that made my day. I know. Isn't that crazy? But Jenny, Susan, and Athena, thank you for your lively discussion and participating in that event. I also was able to attend the Downtown Beloit Association award ceremony and would like to congratulate all the winners this year and all the investments that they make to make our downtown Beloit a thriving district. And then finally, the I-3990 meeting, I will continue to do what I can to advocate for trans construction training site right here in Beloit, so that we might be able to vie for some of the opportunities that will become available for employment through the I-3990 expansion, and would ask my colleagues to continue to join me in vocalizing that to the DOT. And then finally, I would just request, Mr. Zorel, if you could please provide the sources of your information. That would be wonderful if you can get that to us somehow later. Thank you.
Councillor Lupke.
Just very briefly, I see that Rick McGrath is going to talk pretty soon, but I just want to thank he and his wife for all they did for Biff and for all the volunteering that they do for Beloit. And we have many people like that, and we don't thank them enough. So the McGraths and anybody else who gives to Beloit that is here tonight or watching on TV, thank you very much. That's all.
Councillor Kincaid.
I too went to the empty bowl and left full, and bought 2 bowls as well. So it's my first experience there. It's a great thing to go to if you haven't been there. Do it every year. Rise and Shine this last Saturday gave us the things that's going to be happening at the riverfront for the year. Check it out on the internet. There are a lot of great programs, and so it's well worth time, and you get breakfast when you go to that also. So the Arts Incubator for Beloit. I was there Friday night, and I was surprised to see that a person in this room was exhibiting some wonderful photography. Tom Casper is a very skilled photographer, and I couldn't afford anything you had, Tom, but it was really good stuff. And the incubator has a show every month, and this was opening night, and it's well worth going to, and so keep that on your calendar.
All right. Councillor Levy.
Nothing.
Councillor Spreitzer.
I also had a chance to go to the DBA Awards, the Empty Bowl luncheon, the Rise and Shine event, and look forward to going to the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner tomorrow night.
Okay. And I, in the interest of brevity, will have nothing tonight. So we're at, let's see, we've got 9's out of the way. We would now do, how long do you think this is going to take, Rick?
This one's relatively short.
Okay, let's do.
Maybe we'll hold mine for the next meeting.
Let's get. Okay, well, let's get 10A out of the way then.
This is the annual Landmarks Commission report for 2012.
Rick McGrath, Chair of the Landmarks Commission, and I can be brief. All right, there it is. So the Landmarks Commission. Did I just turn it off? I thought I was advancing it. I'm sorry. All right. I can't see the entire thing there, so I will read it from my notes here. Oh, it's not my first slide. Well,
your slides, but they're not synchronized on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, on the computer, I have no idea.
Well, you can just read along with me, I suppose. This annual report is provided in accordance with Section 32.05, Section 10 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. Section 32.05-10 requires the Landmarks Commission to report its activities to the City Council each year. Section 32, that's me, and that is not.
I'm trying to figure out why we can't see the slides. They're fine on the computer.
I could do a little interpretive dance on historic preservation, perhaps.
Oh my. Times night, you get 60 millimeter with computer. For some reason they're not synchronizing with the monitors.
Or it's not a big deal. I can simply come back another evening.
I'll give us just a second here and see if we can fix it. Well, the problem is they were okay earlier when we tested it.
Of course it was earlier.
Program starts, they got out of sync.
We like you so much, we just want you to keep coming back.
Yeah.
Back and back. That's what it is.
So a man walks into a bar.
Try for 3 meetings to get this in.
You have the patience of Job. Send us your bill.
Now, do you have this by any chance?
We do.
You already have
Yeah,
this.
we do.
We could follow it.
Should I just go ahead and keep reading?
Sure.
We'll have
Right,
to do
so section 32.06, section 2 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance states any alterations of the designated landmark sites or structures within the historic district in the city shall first require a certificate of appropriateness. Over the last year, 115 properties, we have 115 properties in the Bluff Street Historic District, 181 in College Park, 4 on Merrill Street, and 42 individually listed properties. I'm the chair, Sandra Williams is vice chair, Lynette Johnson, Donna Johnson, Ellen Joyce, Ruth Vader, Steve Vollmer, and Charles Haynes. I'm very glad to say that we have a full commission, which has not always been the case. Over this last year, we've supported historic preservation presentations and tours during the Beloit Heritage Days last September. There were various members of the commission that attended the 2012 annual conference for Wisconsin Association of Historic Preservation Commissions. The next item, we were going to be hosting the WAPAC, Wisconsin Association of Historic Preservation Commissions. However, I was sad to say I was unable to get them the materials that they needed in time, and that conference will be hosted up in Milton. Perhaps we can get it down here next year. And we've been involved in a discussion around historic district signage, and I would appreciate your support when we get to that point.
We're back up. If you can advance to the slide you're on.
Oh, yes, okay.
You can see we're still not get the right, we're still not synchronizing.
Okay.
All right. Why don't you just leave it there?
All right. Okay, this is one that I didn't see, I didn't get to. As far as those actions over the last year, COAs approved gutters and fascia 2, handrails, porches 8, historic plaques none, local landmark designations none, ramp, sidewalk, steps, pavements 4, roof repair, replacement 17, signs and miscellaneous items 1, siding 4, windows and doors 6. It's been frankly, it's been kind of a quiet year. I imagine much of that is due to the economic situation, not a whole lot of activity for the Landmarks Commission. Any questions? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, I think Councilor DeForest actually did have a question.
Sorry, I do have one quick question. Last year I had asked it when someone else came and did the presentation on behalf of the commission if you were providing information to homeowners about our housing rehab loan opportunities that are available, especially because a lot of these repairs that need to be done to historic homes are quite costly. Is that information being provided to all members in the historic district?
I don't believe that they.
Okay.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
And Councilor Spreitzer.
I was just wondering, were there how many COAs were not approved, if any, and if there's any particular patterns in what those issues are?
Boy, working from memory, were there any that were flatly declined?
Most were approved.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yeah, I don't know that any were flatly denied. There were some that were
Right, so
recommendations
most
and changes.
that came before the commission were approved, and most that were reviewed by staff were approved.
I can't recall any that were just flatly denied.
Great.
Thanks. All right, I think by general consent, we're going to pass on the city manager's presentation tonight. And that would put us into 11A.
A resolution adopting the Connections City Center Plan. The Plan Commission recommended approval 4-0.
Mrs. Christensen.
I don't know if you all had a chance to look at this. This was on the website. This plan was initiated by Beloit 2020 in an effort to guide the physical development and improvement of bike and pedestrian paths in the confluence corridor located between the cities of South Beloit and Beloit. It includes roughly 930 acres of land between both cities. In the city of Beloit, it's east of the Rock River, west of Highway 51, south of East Grand, to the state line border. The major thing that's in there that affects Beloit is that there's a recommendation to extend Sherlin Avenue east to Park Avenue to open up areas for commercial and industrial development. It is an advisory document. It was reviewed and adopted by South Beloit on January 22nd, and Plan Commission did review it and recommend approval.
Do we have any motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, moved by Vandenberger, second by DeForest. Councilor Spreitzer.
A question and a comment. Question is, does this have any periodic review process where we would expect it to come back up to see what's changed and if anything should be adjusted in it, or does it just continue until we decide that it might need changes?
It's not something that would come up as part of a normal review. We didn't actually make this part of our comp plan. It's essentially an advisory document. We would consider it if there was a development proposal. We would bring that information to you as part of your council report. The only thing that we haven't already done, because as you all know, we've done a lot along the border. We've done our part, I guess. And I think so. The only piece that was in there that was a change from what current conditions are is that extension. If that came forward, we would refer you back to this plan. But there was no plan to do periodic review of the document.
Thank you. And then just a quick comment, which is that even though this is sort of being unceremoniously considered at 9:15 at night, this is a really big, important deal for the state line area that's been looked at quite extensively, and anybody who hasn't had a chance to take a look at it should take the chance to do that.
And it is on the city's website, so you can download it, and it's got a lot of nice information in there. It applies more to South Beloit than to us as a city. But it is a really nice plan.
Right. Councilor Kincaid.
It really gives us a vision of what can happen at the south end of the river. Yeah. We've got such a great head start at the north end, so it really gives us something to work towards, because we see the good works up on this side of Janesville that we've done such a great job on. I wonder, is there anything in the plan that would suggest a change to the comprehensive plan? Did the comprehensive plan inform the plan that we're looking at tonight?
Essentially where that Sherland Avenue is extended across isn't on our comprehensive plan, and we weren't real comfortable without a public process like we did with the comprehensive plan on the Beloit side, just including it in our comp plan. So that's why, we wanted to get it approved. We wanted to get it before this body for consideration, and then staff will review it and determine whether it should be actually made a part of our comp plan or not. But because of the timeliness of this, because as you guys have seen, comprehensive plan amendments, it went to Plan Commission. The ones tonight went to Plan Commission in January, so it takes several months, and sure. We just wanted to get this before you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I know it is late as well, but I also would like to make sure this is not minimized. This was an important document that's been the result of many meetings and great collaboration. I believe I've attended every single meeting that we've had regarding this between Beloit and South Beloit, and been pleased with the collaboration. And this is a huge step for us in terms of really being on the same page and looking forward, looking at the future, and in planning on both sides of the state line. So thank you to the staff who helped make this possible, to the residents who attended those meetings, to the officials in South Beloit, especially Alice Schoonover, who's a dynamo And to Mayor Duffy, this has been an incredible collaborative experience, so thank you for that.
All right, Councilor Lubke.
Just very briefly, I wanted to thank you, Julie, and other Beloit staff, because this, again, is, as Sheila said, another great example of cooperation between two districts. So thank you.
All right, and I'll put in my 2 cents worth. Is that this document, I would have loved to have dealt with it earlier in the evening when we all had a little more wind in our sails. But it's splendid. This is the sort of vision that we've all needed, and it's great that we're able to share this with South Beloit and bring them forward. Thank you.
It's one of those things, they did the vision plan a number of years ago, and then they did the Rock River Parkway, and I think at Beloit 2020 felt that the confluence and this district going into South Beloit was important to do because that is one of our gateways, into Beloit from the south. And so I think that they've worked hard to give South Beloit the support they need because, as we know, they don't have the staff we have. They don't have that capacity. And so I think Beloit 2020 has stepped up and provided some assistance that they can actually move towards those goals, which I think they've had. They just haven't had the ability to move that direction.
Okay, thanks. All right, we have a motion to, we have had a motion to approve and, okay, motion by Lubke, second by DeForest. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Okay, now on to 11B.
A resolution approving the 2013 Urban Mass Transit Paratransit Assistance Contract between the State of Wisconsin and the City of Beloit.
Thankfully, I'll be able to be quite brief.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention one thing so that we're not using jargon that might be unfamiliar to anybody that's watching. What paratransit is. City of Beloit, as we all know, operates fixed route bus service, the big buses. We're actually required by federal law to provide what's also called complimentary paratransit, which is for people that are disabled, a specific criteria of disability, that for whatever reason, even though all of our buses are fully ADA accessible, they may not be able to use and access those buses. 2 years ago, in the current state biennium, there was a fairly significant cut in state funding for fixed route service, and the state legislature attempted to provide some compensation for that when they recognized that those cuts were actually going to greatly affect operators' ability to provide this paratransit service. So, as almost identical to last year, how they're administrating that is they've given us a contract to sign to enable us to obtain $16,871 in additional funding. This is over and above our state operating assistance. And the resolution in front of you authorizes the city manager not only to sign this contract, but in the event that we have future contracts that are substantially the same, that he would be allowed to sign those as well.
What are you going to do with all that money?
Oh, boy. As a matter of fact, just to illustrate, it actually costs us quite a bit more than that to provide that portion of the service, but this is at least, it does help offset some of that cost. It's a very valuable service. Right now we have about 200 individuals that use that, 200 to 350 actually, monthly. And those are individuals that absolutely would have no other alternatives for transportation. So it's a small part of the program, but in my opinion, one of the more critical aspects of the program that we're offering.
Approval of 11B, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Vandenberg Bogart, second by Levy. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Very, very briefly, how is this transport typically provided, and is there anything that can be done with the buses to make it more possible for more people to do that beyond the ADA requirements, or is this just something that will always be an additional need?
Right now, we contract with Rock County Specialized Transit. We're blessed to have, in my opinion, one of the better partnerships that you're going to find actually not just in the state line area, but in the Midwest. How that program is administered is that they have a certain number of vehicles in their fleet and drivers. Our program, paratransit, is only one portion of all the programming they offer. So their buses are extremely well, I hate using the word utilized, but it's appropriate in this case. Consequently, we have a very minimal cost relative to our peers. We're always going to have paratransit, even if it weren't legally required. Some of the individuals and some of the nature of their disabilities are always going to prevent them from being, they may have endurance or stamina issues. So paratransit is a demand response. It's more of a, you might think of it as door to door. Technically it's curb to curb. And so even, it's not a matter of, there's no limitations to the buses. Like I said, they're all fully ADA accessible. We do our best to draft the routes so that we're going past, senior disabled residential facilities. But there's some individuals that still are not going to be able to. They may have a combination of physical and cognitive impairment or particularly fragile medical conditions. So quite honestly, this is always going to be the best type of service for those individuals.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Item 211C.
A resolution approving the lease agreement between the City of Beloit and the Beloit Professional Baseball Association Incorporated.
Thank you again. In order to be brief as well tonight, I just want to point out to you the contract is in front of you. Some of the major highlights to the revisions that have been made over several meetings we've had with them is, of course, the option to extend their lease for 2 additional 1-year terms. Their requirement to be compliance with minor league facility standards, as well as the tailgating activities to be designated in areas of parking lot in Telford Park. I like to point out that on page 3 of the particular lease agreement, it does state that tailgating is only provided it is allowed by city ordinance. So therefore, some of the concerns that were addressed here earlier tonight, if the council chooses not to allow that, then the authorization of the contract or their lease could still go forward tonight as well. And so that would only be allowed if at the next time we meet you would allow that ordinance to be changed. The other items is providing inspection to the city regarding their annual counting of expenditures from the annual contributions that we make to the snappers on an annual basis, and some minor changes regarding minimum limits for coverage of liability insurance as well. Those are the main things I think that were revised here that need to be brought to your attention perhaps tonight.
For approval.
Moved by Lubke, second by Levy. Any questions or comments additional to what has already been discussed? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 7-0.
Thank
And
you.
finally, we have item 12.
Move approval.
Moved by Levy,
I'll second.
second by Spreitzer. All in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Good job with the new system, man.
Thank you. Sorry to tease you like that.